Welcome to the Leading at the Next Level podcast with Dove Development Consulting, the show built to provide ongoing support for your leadership journey. So today, it's an absolute honor. I have the opportunity to chat with my friend Steven Faught. So Steven and I have known one another for probably 26 or 27 years. We worked together for about 15 years, very, very closely together. We actually started in the same home department. And as my career progressed through behavior-based safety, Steven was one of the key people that just did so much to support me over the years. So he's near and dear to my heart. It's been amazing to watch his professional career grow, but also our friendship grow over the years. So I get the opportunity to chat with him. He's done a whole bunch of cool things. He's run businesses since. He could never get lead in that little tiny department because he just wasn't quite qualified for that, but he was able to run 2 successful businesses. He does a ton of stuff in real estate today, but more importantly, he volunteers a tremendous amount of time for the Broadway Volunteer Fire Department. He's a lieutenant now. They've given him a number of different awards and different things, and all of it's been earned. It's never been a given or a one type thing. So, Steven, how about you go through a little bit of your professional background, some of your experience overall, and then we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts of the questions I gave you in advance.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And it's awesome to be on here. I'm not sure why we waited so long to do this, really, after all the years we've known each other and all the things that we've done together. So I appreciate y'all having me on here. It really is awesome. My professional career has changed quite a few times, which I guess a lot of people do. Like you alluded to, the manufacturing thing. We were there for 14, 15 years together. I always had a hobby, a passion for cars. So that kind of pulled me away from there to these garages. I went and worked there for 3 or 4 years. Long story short, we ended up buying them both out in 2018, I believe it was. Me and my wife then ran those for 6-ish years or so, somewhere in that ballpark, sold those businesses. We've been into real estate now, so it's a little more of a hands-off, not so much day-to-day sort of thing that we do. As you all know, over my career, especially in the businesses, I became real passionate about leadership. I became real passionate about my community, about giving back. With the cancer stuff that we did. We raised tens of thousands of dollars for the hospital and different things, and just all these different programs. And being a firefighter always intrigued me, like I'm sure it does a lot of people. So luckily, I knew a couple of people at the fire department. The chief and the board was willing to accept an old guy at 41 years old with zero experience. And when I say zero, I mean zero. I got voted in. I showed up to the station to get my gear for the department. That was the first time I had ever touched or put on fire gear in my entire life, was when I showed up to pick mine up. And we stood right there in the bay, and I said, listen, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this. Sign me up for the fire academy right now, standing right here. There's no backing out. It's a 7-month academy to get in, to go do this stuff. So it's like 20, 18-year-olds and me. I was Pops. That was my name. Everybody got these nicknames in the academy. I was Pops in the academy, but it's been one of the most fantastic things that I've ever done. It's awesome. It's a very different way of giving back to the community as opposed to the money we would raise. And we did some of the oil change stuff at the shops, but it's just a very different way of giving back. It's a ton of fun. It's a whole new family that I've met down there that I didn't even know I needed in my life, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, I'm chuckling as I see this because I had a long conversation with your chief, Josh Lohr, leading into the Firefighter Commendation Award, the Fire Safety Award that we presented you with from the Fort Harrison Sons of the American Revolution a few months back. And Josh not only talked about your involvement in the actual fire process and going through the required trainings, but he talked about how Pops, as you said, was so instrumental in the mentorship for the younger guys. Instead of monkeying around on their phones, playing video games, getting them out, building the relationships and building influence. And Steven, I've watched that for, the 25 years I've known you. I watched you as a 19 to 20, 21-year-old kid doing that same thing to earn influence with other people and just the difference that you make. So it has me almost in tears every single time I hear the stories or I get to talk about it. It's freaking amazing to watch. Now, I'm going to tee this first question up and really go off the theme of the book I released in 2025, Leading with a Clear Purpose. You've taken on a lot. Now, specifically with the fire department, it's like you said, it's volunteer. Can't get fired from a volunteer organization, but you've invested thousands of hours at this point. I would guess thousands and thousands of dollars. You've donated hundreds and hundreds of just resource. You've done so many different things to be a part of that organization, but that wasn't the first time you did it. Yeah, you mentioned the oil changes where you did it for cancer survivors and all the different things that I've watched you do over the years. What's been the purpose that's really driven you to accept leadership responsibility and to really lead in a way that you impact people that you're never going to know?
So as far as accepting the responsibility of being a leader, I look at that maybe a little different from some people, because the fact of the matter is, if you are anywhere, you are a leader of some sort. You are either going to be a bad leader or you're going to be a good leader, but somebody somewhere is looking at you as a leader. Whether it's at work, whether you're at the gym, or whether you're at the fire department, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Somebody somewhere is looking at you, you're looking at your example, what you're leaving for them to pick up, and what you're showing them, and how you act and what you do. And once you get your mind wrapped around that, you need to be the best leader that you can be, because you are one, whether you like it or not. And that's just it. And as far as doing stuff for the community and doing that type of thing, it's an awesome feeling. Giving back is an awesome feeling. And it's a different way to be a leader. If some of the stuff that we can do can influence people to do similar things on their own path, like I would look at people back when I had the resources of the shop, I did free oil changes for cancer survivors. I had those resources at the time. I don't have those resources anymore. So now I can go give back in this fire department way. And there's been so many people that have helped me develop into the person that I am. Day one at the fire department, of course, I was the new guy and I was the probie and got the jabbed at here and there or whatever. But all these guys that had been there for years and years just took me in and showed me things and helped me just immediately day one to start developing into that person that I needed to be in that realm of the fire department.
Yeah. What's been the biggest thing through all the different things? What's that purpose been that's driven you? Why would you do it? Because the reality is you and Robin have done well. You've worked really, really hard, but you've paid down your debt and so on and so forth. What drives you to do those things?
It's just an inner drive. I don't really know how to describe it. People have gifts. Even if you get into the Bible, they talk about different gifts that people have and using your gifts. My gift, I feel like, is just giving back. It's a gift of service, and it's just always brought so much joy to me. And not even joy, just fulfillment. Just having the fulfillment in my life of being able to do that.
Yeah, that's strong. You said two different things. In the first part, you talked about serving, giving others. One of the things Cindy and I do, it's so funny when we're with groups, we'll often ask, hey, especially when it's an all hands meeting or something we're doing for an organization, we'll say, hey, who in this organization, who in the group with us today, who sees yourself as a leader? And inevitably, the folks that raise their hands are the ones that have supervisor or manager in the title. And we immediately challenge back to say, everybody in this organization, everybody that we're talking with today has leadership responsibility. If you're the front line, if it's bank, if you're the first person that I talk to when I come in the door, you know things that I don't know. If it's when you ran the shops, if it's the person answering the phone, regardless of what that reporting chain says, I'm counting on them to lead me through the right decisions. And like you said, if they can do it good or they can do it bad, but they're leading either way. And you and I've seen great leaders and we've seen less than great leaders.
Not so great leaders
in our careers. So very, very cool. Now we've talked about a little bit of the background. Who do you focus most on if you had to select? Here's the person that I get out of bed to make sure that I can provide a positive impact for. Who are you looking to do that for today?
Oh, if you want my honest answer, and I don't mean to sound corny about this, but I always want Robin to be proud of me of what I do in life. It's a cool thing to come home and have your wife be like, you know what, you really did something good today, or you did something good last week, or the things we do together are, so that just, not to sound corny about it, but that's something that's important to me. I don't really worry about anybody else very much, but it's important that she's proud of me when I come home at the end of the day for trying to do something good.
I love it. Hey, you and her have worked together. You mentioned, I guess since 2014, you've worked in the same organization together. So now a dozen years that's been the case. And Cindy and I, since I guess 2016, we've been self-employed together and so on. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, but you're 100% correct. And praise God, I've got the wife I do. We've got the business partnership we do. There's nobody else that means as much in my life as she does for what she says. So I'm not corny one bit. And if anybody thinks it's corny, we're not hard to find. Fight us. right? It is what it is. Now, you said something earlier about the people that you can make an influence on and the difference. Stephen, I've not talked about this a lot. I finished a manuscript a couple months ago for a book that's going to be called Leveraging Leadership Strengths. I'm sorry, Leveraging Leadership Growth. It's kind of raw yet. See, I don't even remember the title. Leveraging Leadership Growth, Strength Through Great Professional Relationships. And in that book, I reference three specific folks heavily: Terry, Kevin, and Rod, who all three of them that's been huge mentors in my life. And I also reference how much I learned through the interaction that I had with you and Jake and Mike and several others through the process, and how that's helped me and pushed me to grow indefinitely. And one of the things that I reference heavily in that book is the obligation, because I've had such wonderful people around me through all that it's a huge obligation to make sure I'm paying it forward. If I sit on my butt and don't do anything, then shame on me.
Yeah, sure. And then, and being in the fire service, the people that you serve is somewhat of a twofold answer. Obviously, we're there for if you have an emergency or you have something wrong, we're there to serve you. We're there to serve the community. That is our job. But I feel like we also need to serve each other within the department. The better that we can serve each other and be there for each other within the department, the better job we're going to do as a team to go out in the community and be able to serve you if that need arises.
Yeah, 100% agree. We work closely with a couple local police departments, but I had a conversation last week with one where he talked about one of his officers. This was a sergeant, and we interact closely with the chief as well. And sergeants tell me about one of his officers found food from an Uber that just fell off the car or whatever. It's laying in the street. So how that officer went through the steps to figure out who does this belong to, getting it to him. He didn't get the Uber tip. I think the Uber guy still got it. But the reality is, hey, most folks never have the interaction with the police officer where they're getting the ticket or this or that. And just like most folks, hopefully, prayerfully, never need the fire department. But what are the interactions that we can have in a small day-to-day basis that really leaves a positive impression for the folks we serve? And I would make the case, because Josh shared this with me specifically, Stephen, how much you're doing, not just for the community, the folks you interact with personally, but for the other younger members of the fire department that you're sowing into their lives as volunteers as well. It's going to impact every aspect of their career. And it's freaking cool for me to get to watch you do that. So proud of you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Now, talk about what one of your personal core values has been that's really been something that you've worked to model daily. If you're interacting with people, they see it from your behavior, they see it from your actions and your attitude. It's not just words that you say.
I'm going to say integrity. And the reason I lean towards that one is because you can lump a couple of things in integrity as a whole. The person that you get is the person that I am. And I want that to be the same all the time. But you can take integrity as being a good person, and you can lump honesty in there, and you can lump truthfulness in there. There's things that you can umbrella under integrity. Integrity is just the way that you act all the time. I'm not one person at home and a different person at the fire department and then a different person when I'm at Walmart getting groceries. I want that integrity to show through regardless of where I'm at or what I'm doing.
Hey, in 26 years now, I can vouch for that 100%. And I would argue that there are some times that Cindy or Robin, in either of our cases, would say, well, I wish you'd sometimes be a little bit different person at home than you are in those outside scenarios.
Maybe so.
Yeah, you signed up for this, baby. Hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah.
No, figurative, not literal. Now, as you own the two different shops, and even now in your role as a lieutenant with the Broadway Volunteer Fire Department, talk about how you work to align that integrity with the teams that you're a part of.
I feel like firefighters as a whole, the fire service as a whole, is held to a different standard, as we should be, because the fact of the matter is, when you don't know who to call, you call the fire department. If you have water in your basement, if you have a car crash, if you have a fire, if you have an animal that's stuck, it doesn't fit necessarily into a category, you call the fire department. And because of that, with our uniform and our badge, we have a blank check. People welcome us into their home. If we need to do pre-plans on a business or we need to go look at something, check smoke detectors, for the most part, people welcome you into their homes because you're a firefighter and because you're part of that fire service. So that's why it's so important to hold that integrity so high and really try to instill that on everyone and keep that image up. I can still remember going through the academy, Chief Gladwell and Captain Albertson and some of these guys talking about the way you act off shift. And being a volunteer, we don't have shifts necessarily, but if I have my Broadway Fire Department shirt on and I don't drink, but if I would go drink and get in a car wreck or kill somebody or whatever, it's not going to say Steven got in a car wreck and killed a family because he was drunk. It's going to say local firefighter from Broadway Fire Department caused this accident or did this thing. So it's just so important to keep that integrity up at a very high level, I think.
It certainly cascades and it impacts everybody. My buddy who's police chief that I referenced earlier, he talked about, hey, anytime any person wearing a police uniform does something bad, it reflects negatively on every person wearing a police uniform. And 100% correct. I've looked at it for a long time of, if I'm going to accept leadership responsibility, you know my background, you know my career. I've never had a role where I've had direct reports. I've always had responsibility to get results through people, but I've never had authority that comes with that. But that said, anytime I've accepted any level of leadership responsibility, that comes with raising kids. So when Cindy and I met, her children were 3 and 10, and I've raised them as my own and so on. That was leadership responsibility too. But it meant I need to make sure that I'm living what I'm saying. And sometimes, man, that's freaking hard. And like you say, you mentioned not drinking. Just over 25 years ago, that was exactly why I stopped drinking, because I would never say I had a problem with drinking. I would tell you I was really, really good at it. But the reality is it created problems for the people in my periphery.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So now talk about a recent example of some type of project campaign that you've had the opportunity to be a part of, that you've just seen a significant impact on the people that you serve, the community around you, whatever that may be.
I don't know that I can pull just one particular one necessarily. Every day for us is different. There are days where I go to the station and we're there for 8 hours and we don't get a call. And that's when we try to go do some training around the firehouse or do some different things. But there are times when we can show up and somebody has smoke in the house, or a odor of gas in the house or something, and we can go deal with that problem before it becomes a bigger problem. I said I don't have a specific example. Our professionalism can help us to remedy smaller problems before they can become bigger problems. And that could be anything. That could be somebody just stopping by. I don't feel well. Can you check my blood pressure and check me out while I'm here? Up to a fire at somebody's residence or something like that. It's just such a broad spectrum of things that happen all the time.
A few months ago, you didn't know I was doing it at the time when I was interacting with Chief Lore about your award. You helped me identify several other folks that deserved an award too. That's a bigger picture. But is that one you're willing, the New Year's Day fire specifically, you're willing to talk about? Because 2 of the folks as firefighters, they received commendation from the state from that same incident.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good one. I wasn't personally on that fire. And anytime you can go to a building like that. So basically what happened, there was a fire at this residence and they were able to rescue the people. They were able to get a ladder up and get these people out of the residence and save their lives, which is a pretty incredible thing. So there's not many people that run into the danger of these guys on that New Year's fire. A bunch of them. I know several of them got awards, but when you get an incident like that, there's 20, 30, 40 people that are there doing this job. But these couple of guys just saw that opportunity and went for it and were able to get that done. And it's just an awesome thing. Even though not personally being there, just being associated with those people is just awesome.
Yeah. And I really call that out. I knew you weren't part of it, but you brought it to my attention. You helped us give them some positive recognition, and that's so important. They don't do it for that, but the community needs to know. And as we talk about Broadway Volunteer Fire Department, it's been there for a long time. I don't ever remember a time where it hasn't been a significant part of the people that I've known, the friends, the family members that I've had that have been a part of it. So it's pretty cool to see that there are so many great people in the community that do that. And you remember this at our 2025 Leadership Legacy event. I referenced, hey, that purpose behind it's why people invest and they risk their lives for things. And it's not always about pay. It's a big deal.
Yeah, certainly. And like what you were alluding to, like nobody does it for that. I've always told Robin, even when I first signed up for this, like one of the coolest things to me is we can get dispatched for a call. Of course, it's fun to ride in the big red truck with the lights and sirens, but I can go somewhere. I can deal with somebody's emergency. We might save a life. We might save a pet. We might save property. We don't know what it is. And I'm going to get back on that truck and I'm going to go back to the station. And probably you're never going to know who I was. You're never going to know my name. You have no earthly idea who showed up to do this job. And I think that's one of the coolest things about it. I've gotten awards over the years and this and that over the years, like lots of people do, but I don't do it for that. So the fact that we can show up, deal with somebody's problem and leave, and you'll never even know my name, that's one of the coolest parts about it, I think.
Yeah, I've got an email that I printed from, I don't know, 2 Saturdays or so ago that I printed from Terry, where he had read the Values Advantage book, and I'll come to that more in a little bit. And I'm not going to say he scolded me, but he talked about how he's a little bit uncomfortable about me referencing him. But he called out one specific part that he really appreciated, and that was the reference to what he taught me from his time at West Point and so on. And that's it. There's very, very few good people I've ever said, hey, I want the credit. Usually it's, I don't care who gets the credit. Let's get the work done.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm looking real forward to him reading the manuscript for the next book because he's all over that one. So he might try to and break out a can on me. But yeah, whatever. We'll deal with that when we get there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we've talked a little bit about values, and that's the theme that I really want to dig into a little bit. I've watched you heavily, and you talked about it specifically when you guys bought the businesses, but that's not when I saw you start the process. I've watched you invest time and energy and money into your own leadership growth, into your leadership journey for 2.5 decades. Talk about how your values really pushed you to do that.
Yeah, like I said, we're all going to be a leader. You're all going to be an example, whether you like it or not. You're either going to be a good one or a bad one. And that's up to what you do with your life. That's up to what you do with it. And the more you read into it and the more classes I go to and the more things that I learn, you can always pick up just little things that align, that help you it helps me build my integrity to a higher level so I can then hopefully be an example of that to others. So I feel like the more of that, the better I can do for myself, and the more education I can gain, the more things I can learn, it becomes more and more important to me to be able to pass that on to other people.
And the reality is we can't pass it on if we don't have it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Very true.
And now that really leads into the next question I've got for you. You were one of the founding members of our Executive Leadership Elite think tank. If you're in the community and you're watching the video with us, I'm wearing the shirt. It was specifically for Steven. That's not true. It was the first shirt I grabbed off.
I could have worn my shirt. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But Steven, you were one of the very first members. You've worked with us so very closely over the years. You've been part of every event that we've hosted locally since 2015. And we've had some conversation around the idea of the Values Advantage. The most recent book that I released maybe a month ago as we have this conversation. And the upcoming Leadership Legacy experience on June 12th, 2026, that's going to be the theme of the event. And we've really built out some cool stuff that's not on the market yet. We allude to it in the book, but we've got some really neat subsequent stuff that we're working to launch, and we'll share more. Based on what you know about that progression of living out values, what we've built into the book, some of the conversations you've had, talk to me about what you feel like an organization or even an individual has the opportunity to gain if they digest that and really put boots to ground on the idea of living out those values in a way that people can know it, see it, and feel it every single day.
Growth internally, externally, as you alluded to that group that we started, there was typically one person in there per industry. So we didn't have a lot of overlap. There was every industry under the sun, but it didn't matter, because we were talking about leadership and it applied. I could talk to a police officer. I could talk to Jordan running a generator company and get something that directly applied to what I was doing, and the other way around. You can get people progressed in the leadership process and learn more about that. You're going to grow internally, you're going to grow externally, or you're going to grow your people inside, which is the best thing ever. The better people that you can have inside, whether it's the hard skills of the training on the trucks and the tactics, or the soft skills on how you treat people, how you talk to people, how you act on the scene, how you are a leader. There's so much growth I feel like is left on the table for organizations that don't really embrace leadership and what it can do for you.
Yeah, that I appreciate you saying that about the cross industries. We often have the conversation with folks that ask, what's your niche market? What's the industry that you guys focus on? And my answer is always the ones with people in them.
Yeah, life.
Because it's so funny. See, Cindy and I, over the last 10, 11 years since we started our business, we've had so many conversations with executives, business owners, and it's almost like it's a script they're reading from, and they're legit. They mean what they're saying. They say, hey, you don't understand. Our company, our organization, or our industry is a little bit different. We've got these great people that they've worked hard and they've earned these next level promotions. And when they get a team of people that they're responsible for, it just gets different and they struggle. And it's the same, whether it's healthcare, whether it's nonprofit, whether it's for profit, whether it doesn't matter what industry it's in, it's still the
Sure.
people problems. And it's hard not to chuckle because that would come across as not good, right? If I'm laughing at the person telling me the story. But the reality is it happens in every industry. And that's why we work so hard to do that. Now, I'll come back to say, just like you said, with pushing you to grow, when we started that group in 2019, this year we've got about 20 folks in it. We're looking at maybe doing 2 separate groups in 2027. But the reality is that's been the one thing, because every single person, you mentioned Jordan, there's so many amazing people in that group that it pushes me every single day to make sure that I am what I need to be to deserve the time of the people that are trusting me with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I struggled with that a lot back. How it works in the volunteer fire department is annually there's a vote, and you vote in everything from your officers to the chief and the board positions and all this stuff. So I got nominated for what they call Lieutenant 53 last year, which is the training lieutenant. I had only been in for a year, little over a year probably, and 100% I didn't earn. I mean, a year. I'm in it going on 3 years now, which is no time in the like I know nothing as compared to people that have done it for a career. So I struggled with that a little bit because I didn't feel like I had the hard skills. I hadn't learned the hard skills to take on that leadership position yet. So I really tried to focus on the soft skills. I really tried to focus on the leadership part of it because I knew compared to the people that had been there even 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I didn't have that same skill set as far as operating in the fire service. So I really tried to lean heavily on what can I do as a leader on the other side of things until while I'm developing the hard skills, how can I be the best person I can possibly be, whatever that looked like, whatever that needed to look like within the fire service. And that's what I've really tried to lean on as I've grown and learned.
Yeah, I'm almost chuckling as you say that, Stephen, because I remember it was probably 2001 where I had a conversation with Terry when he first started at the plant where the three of us worked at together. He was maintenance supervisor, and a couple years in, he was promoted to the engineering manager. I remember going to him, remember where we stood in the building. And I said, gosh, you must be the best the most brilliant engineer in the place. And he laughed at me out loud. And I'm like, what's that all about? He said, I'm not the best within 20 feet of where we stand. But what I've had to get really good at is knowing exactly who is the best at each thing that needs to be done and making sure that they have the exact resources they need to do everything that they can in their space. And I stay out of their way. I just need to manage the people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the difference between leading and just being a good doer every single
time. Yeah, I agree.
The last formal question I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to toss one out that I never provide in advance. I like the spontaneity, or however you say that big word, of the unplanned response. But for this one, what advice would you and do you give to the young aspiring professionals that really want to grow in leadership? And I want to separate, I'm not talking about supervising, managing, and so on, not rank positions, but who wants to be successful leaders?
I think the first thing is always be willing to learn. And it doesn't matter what it is, but you need to always be open to learning. You need to always be willing to learn new things because that's how you're going to grow. And to use myself for an example, I was in a class all weekend long this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, a month or so ago. I was in a 5-day long series of classes, but I can learn just as much from these professional instructors that are instructing these classes. But then I go to the firehouse and I'm talking to the guy who's 17, who's been there for 6 months. And then he pops an idea out and you're like, you know what? I never thought about that. But you have to be open to those ideas. You have to be open to being able to learn from somebody older than you, younger than you, different industry from you. And as long as you're willing to learn, there is no stopping that. If you're willing to learn and grow yourself, you can have a huge influence. I remember I used to listen to Les Brown a lot. And he used to say that before he left this world, he wanted to leave the biggest footprint on this world that he possibly could. And I think that's just a cool idea. They're not for recognition purposes, but we all have X amount of days in our life. What good can you do with those days in your life?
Yeah, that goes back to the obligation I feel. And I share this with Terry frequently, how much I appreciate all he did for me. And he says, my goodness, Wes, I've tried to do the things for hundreds of other people. You just listen. Well, if you'd have stopped at 99 and I was number 100, maybe I'm still a drunk guy running the press on second shift at the factory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't know. But glad I don't have to wonder about that. Glad that he did. I'm going to reference him and I'm going to run with it, but the obligation's heavy to not let it go. Now, I'm going to tee you up for the question. I'm going to run through what's in the show notes for anybody watching, listening, whatever the case may be. So you've got a little bit of time to think on how you want to respond.
Sure.
What have I not asked you about? You've done some incredible things. I'm incredibly proud of you. We just love our friendship. We appreciate it deeply with you and Robin. But what have I not asked you that we need to make sure that people hear that you get out there? Now, as you're thinking about that, I'll share in the show notes. I found a Broadway Volunteer Fire Department page where some really cool pictures, a lot of information in the show notes. There's also the Facebook profile for the Broadway Volunteer Fire Department. I've known a lot of folks involved over the years, and it just warms my heart to see your involvement with that, Stephen. I appreciate all that you do with that. There's also some information about the Values Advantage book, as well as the upcoming 2026 Leadership Legacy Experience. It's on June 12th at James Madison University. Now, what's the answer to what have I not asked you that I should be?
I guess I'll start off with saying you're very good at your job, because I feel like you've asked me most everything that you probably should have asked me. So obviously this isn't your first day, but I feel like we've covered a lot in a short period of time. So I don't know that I'll be able to touch on many things that you haven't necessarily asked me, but just I guess a point that I haven't been able to make yet. When we talk about this leadership stuff, and we talk about, it doesn't matter if you're young, you're old, you have a position, you don't have a position, and you're always going to be a leader or an example, good or bad. What we haven't talked about yet is being the good leader and being the good example usually is the harder road as opposed to the easy road. It's easy to be the bad leader. It's easy to be the bad example. And although we've talked about some of these things, I don't feel like I was able to touch on that very well. If you really want to make the commitment to learn and grow and to be a good leader, that usually is the harder road to take. It's a very fulfilling road to take. And at the end of the day, it's worth it 100 times over. But you can't expect to be a good leader and have it be easy all the time, because it's not going to happen. Being a good leader is difficult, and it gets easier as you grow, but it's always the harder road to take.
Amen to that. Cindy and I talk all the time. If you're getting in a leadership role and you're doing it strictly for the benefits, the perks, the financial rewards, you ought not be in a leadership role.
Right.
Because sometimes, gosh, you could make a lot more money, have a lot more security, maybe even have more perks in a role that didn't carry leadership responsibility.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When you sign up for leading, I remember one of the turning points when you guys decided, you know what, we might sell the shops at some point, and you guys were doing well. But I remember it was, hey, here's, not because it was bad, but hey, where can we make the biggest influence? And
yeah, sure.
So that was cool. Stephen, I'll share with you as we bring it to the close. It's been an absolute privilege to consider you such a close friend for the last 25 years. It's been amazing. And I'll never, ever take credit for the things that I've watched you achieve. You've worked really hard. You've invested heavily, but I'll tell you, praise God, I've gotten to be involved. And I think you would have achieved amazing things if you never knew me. But man, I'm happy that I've been able to be a part of it and run with you side by side. So I appreciate you very much, sir.
Oh, 100%. I can echo that completely. The things that I've learned working together with you and working with Cindy and the groups we've been in, the books that you've written, the presentations, it's been awesome. Aside from the friendship and the stories we've got to tell and the experiences that we've had and going on trips and doing all these things, it's been cool. But it's cool to have those friendships where you can not only be a friend or be a buddy in a time of need, but you can learn from each other. You can grow together. And that's been really awesome.
We saw the guy walking on his knees, didn't we?
We did.
across the big conference room trade show in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes, we did.
And that was probably the mildest part of the experience with that fella during
It was an interesting part, that's for sure.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. There's been some fun stories. So if you're hearing this, if you're watching it on our channel, awesome. Appreciate you being in the community and so on. If you're catching it on any of the platforms that our podcast goes out to and you don't see the video, those are now exclusively in our Leading at the Next Level community. There's no cost, specifically in the Leadership Legacy channel that's on there. That's where all the videos of these live. Then the audio version goes out to the different things on the podcast platform. If you've got a need for continuing education credit, Cindy and I, through Dove Development Consulting for, 6 years now, we've been approved recertification providers with the Society for Human Resource Management, Human Resource Certification Institute, and a few others. The complete Leading at the Next Level program has somewhere around 200 hours worth of content, all proprietary. We've recently broken that down into different modules. It's just a smooth process. We've made a lower cost of entry tier for the folks that don't need the credits, for the folks that say, hey, I'll take action whether I fill out your stupid assessment or not, Wes. But for folks that need the credits and want the extra, that's still at the same price it's always been. And we've even built a new tier. Now, I'm saying all that to say, if you have that need for credit, reach out to us. Send us an email at admin@dove-development.net. And you'll automatically get a 7-day trial wherever you access because you hear it through this podcast, through this interview process that we do through our channels and so on, we'll give you a discount, probably something in the 20-25% off for the first year that you're a member of the program. Steven, thanks for taking the time to be with me today. We'll call it done. Really appreciate it and look forward to seeing everybody out